Well, today I've got five short stories I'm going to tell. The first one is called Mom's Patterns, My Pain, a sewing story. My mother loved to sew, and so she had a sewing machine, so, she was always, doing stuff with the sewing machine. But when she does her patterns, she gets down on the floor and she lays her patterns out, and I guess she you know, cuts the cloth and stuff to the proper shape and everything. And of course, she used pins, you know, to and pins and to, I guess, in doing fixing all her stuff on her different sizes of cloth. And so when she was finished, she would put everything away. And she thought she had everything cleaned up, but I soon discovered, or I would eventually discover, I like to run around barefoot. And by golly, I would find, I would step on needles and straight pins and with my foot, and that was not a good happy day for me, to say the least. So you had to really look out for them, especially right after she finished sewing. You had to be aware of, you know, what might happen to you. So pins and needles and bare feet, not a great combination to go together. My next story is called From Commute to Commode, a rescue story. Now this occurred while we were living on Berry Creek there in Shirts. And one morning I was going to work. And I'm starting to back out of the driveway when this young girl approaches me. She asks for my help. This young girl's a neighbor of ours, but she's like way down the street, probably, 7 or 8 houses down the street. And they had a two-story home, so I said, "Yeah, I'd go help her." She was she was all alone, and she had a problem that needed some help. So what had happened was her commode got stuck, or it was running, and water was coming out of that commode. It kept coming out and kept coming out. When I got when I entered the home, it was a two-story. There was water literally coming down the stairs like a stream, and like you look up and the ceiling, like there, I think there was a fire alarm up there, and it was coming through the around the fire alarm coming down through the ceiling. So obviously, the first thing I had to do is stop the flow, right? So I run up to the second floor, and I think I just shut off the water from what I can remember. And I think that pretty sure that fire alarm was going off too. It was probably shorted or something because of the water going through that fire alarm. Anyway, I had to get that, reach that fire alarm and unplug it, and I got, in doing so, I got shocked because of that water. I got shocked by removing that fire alarm. I remember that didn't hurt me bad. It just kind of, you don't like to get shocked, right? Um, and it did have that, you know, fire alarm did have a AC connected to it, but it also had a backup battery. And I had similar fire alarms at my own house. Well, she eventually uh, called her mother, and her mother was going to come home and to oversee the disaster that had happened. So, when I woke up that morning, little did I know I was going to end up saving a young girl from a terrible disaster going on in her home. Uh, so I went and saved a girl from a stressful situation, a stranger's home. Never been in that home before. And of course, I was late for work. If you were my boss, would you believe that story that I told them? I don't know. It's a pretty wild story, right? The the next story is titled "Rocks and Shocks: Our Colorado Adventure," and Bambi says she's interested in this story too. So a lot of times on my birthdays, our family would go to Colorado on vacation. So that was a pretty frequent thing happening. And one of these trips, we were traveling in the mountains, and my cousin Ronnie and I, we were looking out the back window, and we could see this big boulder coming down, from the mountain, and that boulder hit in between us and the car behind us. It's a pretty big boulder, and that was quite an exciting thing, right? And as we were traveling on the roads that day, we kept coming across these rock falls all along the way. More of these um, fallen rock occurred on the roadway that day. Anyway, we finally got into town. I believe it was, yeah, Estes Park, Colorado is where we ended up staying the night. And on the news that night, we had heard that there was an earthquake that day. I guess that might have been maybe the only earthquake I was ever in, and didn't even know I was in an earthquake. I guess the clues of fallen rocks wasn't enough to trigger a kid. Hey, this is an earthquake going on here today. But anyway, that was definitely a close call on that trip for sure. My next story is titled "Customer Service." Well, I was working for a company called Pace, and later I worked for Marriott for several years. And of course, I was on the phone talking all day long to customers. And I many times, this happened not just once or twice, but it happened quite often. And the people on the other end of the call would say, "You sound like someone I know." And then my voice sounded just like people that they knew. And there was one girl, she had called to complain about the service, but she couldn't complain because she liked my voice so much. I couldn't get her mad. She couldn't get mad at me because she just loved the sound of my voice. And I'm like, I'm not. I think I talked to her for quite a while, but she she was always, she just, all I can say is she just fell in love with my voice. And many people were, you know, just like the sound of my voice. So I don't know. I guess you could say I give good customer service. I don't know. My last story here is called "Fearless Youth: Conquering Attic Tight Spaces." While in Odessa. I lived on Cambridge Street for a while, and that was our first, I guess, first home after we got married, me and Shelley. And also, kind of very similar house when we moved to Cibolo, when we lived on Harvest Street. So both of these houses are very similar. And in my younger days, I used to crawl in the attics. And you get up in those attics, there's just no room to, you don't have any standing space whatsoever. All you got is crawl space, literally. And plus, when you're crawling through the attic, there's no place to turn around. You can't turn around and go back the other way. You have to inch your way backwards if you want to go back from the way you came. And now I'm sure the reason I was in those attics was probably running a cable, like TV cable or phone cable or something like that. I wanted to run it into another room or something. So I remember the one in Odessa on Cambridge Street. I remember, and plus it's hot and you get sweaty up there. So keep that in mind. It's hot, sweaty, and cramped, and the boards are just right over your head, and you're crawling through there. One of the spots, there were some electrical wires crisscrossing where I had to crawl over, and on the way back, I guess I must have been really sweaty, but I got shocked on my tummy by crossing over those wires. So I had to lift my tummy up over those wires to prevent from getting shocked. That was quite a enjoyable experience for sure. Uh, I guess back then I must not have had any fear of being in a closed space because that was definitely a cramped and closed space. And now me, if I can't even imagine doing that now at my age here. But being young, you're capable of doing all kinds of things, that you normally wouldn't do. So, and I've been in both these houses. I've been in these attics, and it's just terrible. There's just no room to go. But I went anyway, and I survived, obviously, right? So that's the end of that story.